There has got to be more analysis and criticism of Jim Harbaugh's tenure at Michigan than directed at any coach in college football. The style versus the substance, the quirkiness, the persona versus the outcomes on the field and the results in the record book. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We are previewing the 2018 season. The games have started on Thursday night. We get all the big games starting on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, including Michigan against Notre Dame. So we are delivering our predictions with our live stream show prior to the noon kickoffs on Saturday from 10 to 12. We culminate with our Big Ten predictions, then our National College Football predictions, playoff predictions, as we have knocked out the Pac-12, the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC, and most of the Big Ten, and we delivered that to you. I wanted to get in my Michigan video, and my thoughts on Jim Harbaugh is that this guy is an amazing college football coach and NFL coach. Look at the track record. And Michigan fans and critics of Jim Harbaugh, the haters out there, want to point to what he has failed to do in Michigan. And I get it. He is going to have to win championships at Michigan. That is a must. That has to happen at some point soon. But right now we have Jim Harbaugh taking over a San Diego program that was nothing and building it up to championship level at that level. Then he went to Stanford, where nobody won. They didn't have a good football team going back to the late 90s. He went to Stanford. They were 1-10, and he built them into a national power. He was taking them to BCS bowl games, back-to-back BCS bowl games. Then he goes to the San Francisco 49ers. They were the laughingstock of the league. They were 2-14, and he quickly took them to 3 consecutive NFC championship games. Took them to the best record in the NFL over those 3 seasons. And yes, took them within 5 yards of winning a Super Bowl, and that does not count, I understand, as a Super Bowl championship, but he can only do so much. He can't block and tackle and catch passes and throw passes on the field for Colin Kaepernick. If he would have gotten one decent pass play into the end zone, he would be a Super Bowl championship coach. He is not, but he coached the team to a Super Bowl. Then he goes to Michigan, takes over a team that went 5-7 in 2014, takes good personnel, top 15 level personnel, so he didn't walk into a devastating situation in which the cupboard was bare, but he delivered. He delivered a 10-3 team, top 10 in the nation, that won a bowl game. Then he delivered another team that came that close to winning the Big Ten Eastern Division, defeating Ohio State that went to the playoff, and most likely getting to the college football playoff himself in 2016. So the results say that he has failed to deliver a championship. Of course, he has yet to do that, but he's only coached for 3 seasons, and really the only disappointing season was the 2017 campaign, after building up a 5-win team to a 10-win team and another 10-win team and top 10 team in the nation, losing the Orange Bowl to a really good Florida State team by 1 point without his 2 best players, Jabril Peppers, and also without Jake Butt. No Jake Butt in that game, no Jabril Peppers, and they still play within 1 point of Florida State in the Orange Bowl. So people, put the brakes on. Yes, they disappointed last year in going 8-4, then losing the bowl game 8-5, and they got crushed in the second half against South Carolina and blew what was almost a 26-3 lead. I understand all that. Let's look ahead now. Michigan's loaded. They've got a quarterback in Shea Patterson, but they've got a brutal schedule to contend with. Brandon Peters was only a freshman last year, and people just laid waste to him. And no, he did not play well, and we do see other freshman quarterbacks playing well in college football. It's not any longer an anomaly that a freshman quarterback comes in and plays well and takes over a team, but it still is somewhat rare. Usually the freshman quarterbacks need time to develop into sophomores and juniors and seniors, in which they are better players than they are as freshmen. And Brandon Peters was injured. He was in and out of the lineup. He played a horrible game in the second half, in particular against South Carolina, but he was not horrible overall. Michigan, as a passing team, was horrible. They threw 9 touchdown passes. Georgia Tech threw 10, incompleting 37% of its passes. And that is the lowest number of Michigan touchdown passes since the mid-'70s, when they were throwing the ball 7 or 8 times a game. The offensive S&P number was 85th in the country. That's deplorable. All right. The only hesitancy I have about Shea Patterson is that when he was injured as the Ole Miss quarterback, Jordan Ta'amu came in and played just as well as Shea Patterson and actually produced better results, although Shea Patterson took on the better teams in the schedule, i.e. Alabama and some other teams, so he played against the tougher opponents. But this guy can play. Have you watched Shea Patterson play? He is projected to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft, and those are the people that know who can play. It doesn't always translate. Sometimes players are better in the NFL because their game translates and they develop and their talent is utilized in the NFL. Some players are better college players. That mostly happens. And then they get to the NFL and they get overwhelmed by the game. But he is projected to be a first-round NFL quarterback, so he can play at this level. And so with the defense that they have and the 2 running backs and the load of talented wide receiver, Michigan's got a chance. They've got a chance to do something special. Watch Shea Patterson play. He looks like Russell Wilson out there. He's not as good as Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has taken Seattle to 2 Super Bowls. But at this same stage in his development, with 10 or 12 games under his belt compared to what Russell Wilson had done at North Carolina State before he ever put on a Wisconsin uniform, he's comparable to Russell Wilson then. All right, the wide receivers were young last year. They played poorly, but man, they might be ready to explode. They've got Tariq Black, who was a blue chipper out of high school, and of course, Donovan Peoples-Jones, much heralded. The slot receiver is the senior, and Grant Perry, very dependable player, and the tight end, Sean McKeon. The interesting portion of this offense and the entire season is going to rest on how Jim Harbaugh and Jim McElwain and company have devised an offense that is suited for Shea Patterson. Jim Harbaugh has proven that he can be a pro-style guy with an Andrew Luck and that he can be a spread option kind of guy, a spread RPO guy with Colin Kaepernick. So he has already proven this. All right. And if these wide receivers can't step up and start to make plays, they've got waves of 4 stars behind them like a Nico Collins and others. Their running backs are really good. They're not great. They're not the best in the nation, but they're close. They're on that second tier. Karan Higdon's a good back, so is Chris Evans. I like Higdon between the tackles more so. The offensive line has 6 starters coming back that at least started a game, 6 players back that at least had starting experience in 1 game minimal, led by Ben Bredesen, who was a second-team All-Big Ten performer. All right, the defense. You've got Don Brown in play as the defensive coordinator. He's exceptional. He took far less talent at Boston College and turned it into a top-5 defense 3 consecutive seasons. Rashawn Gary's a monster, great player at defensive end. Chase Winovich on the other side, tremendous, very productive player with not quite the skill set or the monstrosity of freakish athletic ability as Rashawn, but Winovich has been a stud as well. Khaleke Hudson is exceptional, great player, elite-level player. Middle linebacker Devin Bush, smart player, very solid player, doesn't make mistakes. This team is loaded on defense, so they went from a situation in which Jim Harbaugh inherited defensive talent in 2014, and he only built upon that. Then they maxed out the seniors, and they had that team that was ready-made to win in 2016. They didn't get it done. And then in 2017, they had to replace all that talent on both sides of the ball, but in particular on defense, and they still maintained a top 10 level defense. Now they've got Lavert Hillback at cornerback and David Long and Brandon Watson. Safeties Tyree Cannell Also Josh Metellus. But then you've got the schedule. And this is where it's difficult to project Michigan. When you look and stack the games, to think Michigan's most likely, like everyone else, has to not lose more than one game to win a division championship, to get to the college football playoff, win the conference, get to the playoff. Can they do that? Traveling to Ohio State, traveling to Michigan State, Penn State, Wisconsin at home, Notre Dame on the road, where they can only lose one of those games. And maybe if they lose to an Ohio State, maybe the Buckeyes are undefeated and they still go 11-1 and don't make it to the Big Ten championship game. That would be tragic for Harbaugh in trying to ward off all these critics. So I'm going to play the odds here with Wisconsin, Nebraska, and Northwestern out of the Big Ten Western Division, not even taking those teams into account, that a trip to Northwestern is not easy. And if there's an off week, yes, Michigan's better than Northwestern, but week after week after week after week, if you're playing your C game against a Northwestern A game or against Nebraska at the Big House, even though it is at home, it's going to be tough. At Ohio State, at Michigan State, and of course, again, Penn State, who throttled Michigan last year in Happy Valley, but this is a different scenario. So I'm going to play the probabilities here, and the probabilities say that Michigan is going to lose 2 games in the Big Ten. Most likely it's going to be against Ohio State, and then it's going to be a road game, or maybe Penn State is good enough to go to the Big House and win. So they lose 2 games, and they're really good, and they're top 10 good. They go 7-2 in the Big Ten. They go 10-2 overall because I've got them winning at Notre Dame on opening night. Michigan goes 10-2, 7-2 in the Big Ten. All right, in the comments section, leave your prediction on Michigan football. And, of course, subscribe to our newsletter that comes out Monday, September 3rd. So following all the big games over the weekend, each and every week. I know I'm going to miss Florida State, Virginia Tech on the first weekend, but after that, all the games will have been played. You've got channel update. You've got my take and perspective on the weekend. You've got stats and trends that I was just working on that is going to blow you away. So please subscribe to our newsletter. I'm not going to clutter your inbox. I'm not going to do anything stupid or unethical with your email address because you're going to have my email address as well. So don't be concerned about that. I'll send you the weekly newsletter right here. Send your email address to MarkRogersTV at Gmail, and I'll get it out to you each and every Monday, because I know, like me, that you are a college football nerd, junkie, hardcore fan, and you want the very best in information. So we're going to get that out to you each and every week. And as always, I always ask for your suggestions on content, and I will do the same with the newsletter each and every week, that if you've got a different idea or perspective on how we can make it better, certainly let me know. All right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. See you soon.